Welcome back, guys. Where have you been? I know I'm the one that left the scene. I had to fly off the radar, kind of get my personal life in order, but I'm back here with a gentleman named Sean. He's a beginner detailer. What's the name of your business, Sean?
Blue Tech Mobile Detailing.
Okay, what we're going to be discussing today, accidentally, is we went with the flow, is websites, because according to you, it was the very first thing that you did once you decided to start an auto detailing business.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into that, and let's just bring the conversation up where you and I began, and we'll go with that. The problem with the detailing world is what I call information overload. Way too much information.
Yeah.
So just to give it a little background to our audience out there, you are a beginner detailer.
Yeah.
And so why don't you tell us your story in hopefully 500 words or less. Start with you being in Texas. How did it ramp up?
Short version, I was in commercial janitorial for 20 plus years as an operations manager, and wanted to do my own thing. I was in Texas not too long ago. I started watching Darren's videos, or auto fetish detail videos, and I became very interested in it. I've been doing detailing as a hobby since 2012, especially on black cars. I bought a black car.
That's a few years ago.
Right, and I bought a black car and I learned the hard way that it takes a lot to maintain it. So, but I actually like it, so I kept on doing it. And then for many years, people have been telling me that I should do my own thing, my own business.
Now define that. When you say years, and I don't mean the time necessarily, but when people said, okay, you should start your own business, was that based on the context of you, how they saw the work that you did on your own car?
Yeah.
And they said, hey, you should start your own business as an auto detailer?
Right.
Or you should just start your own business, period?
Originally, it was period.
Why?
Because I've been doing janitorial for so long. Everyone said that you know more than the owners. You should probably do your own janitorial company. Okay. But I don't want to do janitorial.
So first it was just become your own business owner, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Okay. So then
I really like detailing, like auto detailing. I've always liked it. It's it relaxes. Yeah. When I detail, I get it like into a different zone, and it fully relaxes me, and it just I enjoy it.
To me, and for a lot of guys, it's what we consider therapy.
Okay. Yeah.
Therapeutic.
Right.
It's also cathartic. It's actually two different words.
Okay.
So my interpretation of those is cathartic, catharsis, meaning it's kind of like what I say is that's how I chase the demons out.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
So as I'm working and I'm making something that's less beautiful, more beautiful, it's how I chase my internal demons out. Okay, that's cathartic.
Okay.
But it's also therapeutic as in it's therapy for me. Yeah. So I can get into this kind of Zen mode, and become hyper-focused and kind of tune out all the noise and stuff that stresses me out in the world. And so a lot of guys enjoy it for that very reason.
And that brings me to two things. So the reason why I love janitorial so much for a long time is because I like doing all this hard work and then making the customer go wow, like the wow effect.
Yeah.
And that's why detailing I like so much, because even though I'm a beginner, people said I was pretty good for what I did, especially not knowing what you know. Yeah. But every time I would detail a car, people would be like, holy crap.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's like
that's okay.
Yeah. Holy crap, that's amazing. Like
crap is still PG rating.
Right. And people would say like, wow, like my car hasn't looked that good since I bought it. Or some people would say like, I don't think my car's ever looked that good before. Yeah. So, and I did it, those are the days when I did it for free. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so then that's like, you know what, I told my wife that I think I know what I want to do, and we discussed it, and she agreed. Oh, and also my wife saw Darren's videos. She started watching videos with me on YouTube. Yeah. And then she started believing.
What a sport.
Yeah. So
you know, I hear that story often where, and it's very cool, not because you guys are watching me, but it's cool in that you have a partner called your wife. Often it's a girlfriend, and they join in. They're there to support you. Yes. And I think, how cool is that? Anyhow, so what I want to talk specifically about is, and I asked you this before I turned that camera on, what was the very first thing? Actually, I said, what were the first, if you had to reduce it down to the first 3 things you did, once you decided, okay, I'm going to start an auto detailing business, what were the first things you did? But you actually said, do you want me to tell you what the very first thing is? It's like, okay, go with that. Yeah. What was the very first thing that you did knowing that I'm about to start an auto detailing business?
Right. The very first thing I did is I started a website.
Okay, bam, right there. A website is a massive can of worms when it comes to not just auto detailing, but business owners in general.
Right.
So why did you think you needed to start a website? Well, actually, let me back up.
Yeah.
Let me make that a two-part question.
Right.
Why did you think you needed to start a website or build a website?
Yeah.
And why was that the first thing that you chose to do?
I did a lot of research on YouTube because YouTube is basically my library of detailing.
I call it the University of YouTube.
It is. It is. It's free. It's a free, misleading university.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard to filter out you know, what is signal. It's what I call signal versus noise.
Yes.
YouTube is filled with tons of noise.
Right.
But how do you filter out the noise and find the signal?
Yes.
That's the difficulty.
So this is obviously before I met you. So obviously. But most of the detailers have said that when you first start out, the very first thing you want to do is do a website because it's going to...
well, back up.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'm going to keep interrupting you because I really want to clarify for them.
Right.
Because one of your complaints is these guys have these videos, but they don't... It's what I call actionable steps.
Yeah.
Or useful information. It's like, it's good information, but I want the nitty gritty, down and dirty information that I can actually apply to my world. So I'm gonna keep interrupting you because my brain's gonna be thinking like, wait a minute, I can remember what it's like to be a beginner. It sucks. And so it's like, I want it to suck less for them. I want it to suck less for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you say a lot of guys said, oh, you need to start a detail or a website, define that. When you say a lot of guys, you talking about a lot of guys on YouTube, a lot of...
So what I meant to say is people that I watch on YouTube, the majority of people that I've seen have always said that the very first thing you should do is start a website.
Okay. Do you recall why they said that?
They said because it's going to separate you from the competition. Because most of the competition are not going to have a website.
Yeah.
And it's going to make you look more professional. And the whole point of it, you want to look professional because that's going to get you the customers.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why that's the very first thing I did.
Which, at a casual observation, makes complete sense. Right? The problem is with a website. So let's just take a moment and let's address that.
Yeah.
And I can make a whole series of videos on website, and that's one of the links I'll have to remember to put in this. So just for you guys, just so you know, I built a page addressing this very specific thing. I've been building my 2 websites and working on them for 8-9 years. So I had my one website first, which is the autofetishdetail.com.
Right.
That was to get me business. Then I developed the second website after that, but I've been working on those for 8-9 years. I don't remember exactly. Because that's such a common theme with guys, and I just got to clarify, when I close my eyes, I'm not tuning you out. It's just that I get in my brain a lot. And so actually one of my strategies was I was going to start wearing sunglasses, which I'm not a real fan of. I feel like that when you wear sunglasses and you're talking to someone, it kind of puts up this subconscious barrier of distrust. And so that's a little sidebar I could add, is that don't wear sunglasses when you're talking to your customer. Because whether they acknowledge it consciously or not, I think it creates a element of distrust because it's almost like this shield, like, oh, I don't want you to really see, I mean, what's the saying, like the eyes are the windows to the soul. Whether you believe that or not, I do believe at a subconscious level, it does mean something. Me, I thought one of my strategies is, so guys didn't see me shutting my eyes on video, I could wear sunglasses because I really have to close my eyes to eliminate the distractions around here because I really want to dig deep into my brain, my psyche, and pull out that information from my experience. So that's what I will often do. To circle back around to where we were, websites. A common theme. So I spent a couple days building this page and addressing the very specific things about website because it's one of those animals of any business that literally, kind of like detailing and kind of like your customers, because you've said you've watched quite a few of my videos. One of the things I talk about is that your customers, and this is how you build trust, one of the ways, they will not have the experience to ask you the right questions as a professional so that they can get what they want. Because really, a customer's coming to you because they want something. Yeah. They want a clean car. Right. They want the experience of driving a clean car. They want a shiny car. But they don't really know how to communicate that to make sure you're the guy, that you're the fit for them. It's the same with websites. It is such a big can of worms that most people that build them do not know enough information to ask the right questions. Yeah. In fact, true story, we don't have normal TV, and I listen to Pandora, which most people are familiar with. Right. I don't pay for this subscription. I just get it for free, and I have to just endure the ads. I actually like commercials because I like marketing and I like the study of it because it's emotionally and psychologically based. So one of the ads that I see is, and I don't remember if it's Wix, there's a commercial that comes on all the time, and it's a website builder, and it is so misleading, and every time it comes on I've got to say something to my wife because my wife knows nothing about building websites. Right. I've been doing it 9-ish years, and I had to learn, like literally before I built my first website, I could barely send an email. Now I know anyone out there watching this is like, dude, like, are you that challenged? Yeah. Like, how hard is it to send an email? It wasn't so much that I didn't know how to send one. I knew how to configure it, but because I was so, let's call it illiterate with the computer, it took me time, like, okay, let's see, mail, okay, where's my mail? I have to go to my mail to send an email. Let's see, what's their email address? Wait, I don't know their email address. Yeah. Where do I find their email address? Okay, their business card, okay. Yeah. So it just was all these steps. I thought, what a waste of time. If I want to reach out to them, I'm just going to pick up the damn phone and call them. Right. So I didn't even see the relevancy of an email, never mind configuring an email. So I started probably as low on the knowledge scale that I possibly could. But the cool thing about the service that I subscribe to is that they could take someone like me that literally knows nothing about it, and they will teach you every step of the way. So that's what frustrates me is I see this website and they make it look so simple. Yeah. For example, which site did you pick?
Wix.
Wix. Okay, it's a very popular site.
Right, and Wix is also misleading.
How did you find them misleading?
Because they show you like, oh, it's so easy to build a website. But the problem with that is that there's 2 websites you can build. There's the beginner website, which is, there's not really many options. Yeah. And then there's the advanced. Yeah. So when I first started out, I used the beginner. I was like, oh, this is pretty easy. Anybody can do this. Yeah. I found out the hard way that you can't really do much, customize it the way you want it. Oh, I see. So then my first website took me 1 day to build it. Then I used the advanced settings, and it took me a month. Yeah. Did you have to pay a different price? Yes. Okay. So, which I'm not surprised. Right. It's a traditional upsell. Right. It's like, here you can enter the doors, the magic doors, with this amount of money. But if you really want the good stuff, you've got to pony up with more money, because then you get the real good stuff. Yeah, so, okay, so basically the way it works is you can build as many websites as you want for free, but you can't put it on Google, for example. So basically just when the website's been completed, it gives you a link. So you can give it to your friends, and they can click on the link and it takes you to your website, but it's not on the internet, basically. So you have to pay for that service. Yeah, so that's interesting. You have to pay for that. I've never heard that before. Yeah, and basically... So really what they do is they say, okay, they entice you to, hey, you, Mr. Johnny, average guy that wants to start a business and specifically wants to build a website, you can enter, and now you can create this cool website, but we're going to hold you hostage because nobody can actually find it unless you send them the link. And not only that, but then also, like, for example, my webpage is bluetechmobiledetailing.com. Okay. But I pay for just because you, meaning one of my insecurities is realizing that the audio doesn't always translate to that little microphone over there. Okay. So it's Blue Tech Mobile Detailing.com. Yeah. Okay. So that's my webpage. So if you want to check out Sean, BlueTechMobileDetailing.com. So yeah, so you can go to my webpage, and if you look at it now, obviously my webpage has changed so many times. Because that's a part that's really hard about building a webpage. It's like I don't know anything. I have to like figure out on my own by making multiple mistakes. Right. And also the worst part about it is when you build a webpage, you spend like 20 hours straight building it, and then you forget to save it. and then by accident, you hit the next page, and you lose everything. And I remember like losing it. Yeah, I remember jumping and screaming every cuss word you can think of. I lost it. But yeah, so that's gonna happen. But like, but anyway, it's like I must have spent 80 hours building my webpage.
Really?
Because I don't.
Okay, let's define that. When you say web page, do you literally mean a single page?
I'm sorry, my website.
Okay, website.
So my website.
Website, which as a rule contains multiple pages.
Yes.
Okay.
Mine used to be a lot of pages. So I thought it was too much, overwhelming.
Define a lot of pages.
I think I had
5, 10, 20.
I think I had 8 pages at one point. And I thought that I tested it out. Like, and that's another thing too. I would suggest that if you decide to build a web page, before you actually put it on the web, I would suggest share with your friends and family and see what they think.
Yes.
And that's what I did.
That's good.
So I try to get their input and don't get offended by what they tell you.
Yes.
Because it's all good. It's good advice.
Right.
So that's what I did, and I took their input and I made it smaller and easier to read. Also, flashy does not mean good thing. No. A lot of people say like you add. Cause originally mine it looked like 80s club in Miami. Like it was just too much flash.
You know what? Just to make you feel a little bit better, most guys get sucked into that vortex where, and it's just a form of overcompensating. It's like, oh, the cooler I can make it, the flashier I can make it, the more professional, and the more people will think that I'm just, I guess, cool. Yeah. And it's really, in so many ways, for example, one of the best examples that, because I've studied marketing and advertising for years because I just find it fascinating. Just like I study psychology, I just find it fascinating. One of the most perfect examples is Google. Okay, Google, the #1 search engine in the world. Have you ever been to their homepage? Yes. Of course you have. Yeah. You know why? Because the world has. Have you seen how simple and basic Google's homepage is? And you think, WTF, how is that possible? So simplicity often is, because as society, we are trained and groomed to think that more is always better. Yeah. Well, if this is good, then if I get more of that, it's going to be better. And if I get more, it's going to be even better. So we tend to overthink a lot of things that we end up shooting ourselves in the foot. Yeah. And that don't need to be overthought. So right there, the flash, the graphics, it's like, oh, I'm gonna make it the coolest looking website, and people are gonna come flocking to me and think, wow, this guy must really know what he's doing. So I get it, you're not alone.
Right, so originally I did that, and then I got some advice from my family and friends saying that the colors were too dim, or there was too much color. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie to you, at first I was actually so upset.
No, please lie to us.
Yeah. I was actually pretty upset because I spent so much time on it. Yeah. That I thought that they were wrong and I was right. So I was in denial. So I ignored them.
That's good. That's very mature of you to now say that. Yeah. You know, because really what it is, it's the ego. Yes. The ego steps in, it's just like, how dare they? You know, they don't realize how much time I just put into it, and really, what do they even know anyways? Exactly. It's not their business, it's my business. Yes. They don't know my business. Right. Why the hell did I even ask them?
Yes. So it's exactly how I felt. And also said they don't know anything about detailing. I probably know more than they do. So I decided to ignore them, and then I paid Wix to the SEO to put my webpage on Google.
You probably know now. Yeah. But a lot of people out there that don't have a website or that are thinking about starting a business, what does SEO stand for? Do you know?
I don't know. I remember a while ago what it stands for. You can go ahead and tell me. I know what it is.
Okay. It stands for Search Engine Optimization.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. But what does that even mean? Do you know what that actually means?
I know that...
Because those are kind of some like sophisticated, fancy words. Well, I know
what it does. I know the reason why what it is. It's basically you start adding words on Google so people can find you, right?
Right. Really, it's all about being relevant. Okay. So you spent time, you built your pages, and
like 8 pages,
8 pages, and then the next step, according to Wix, was something called SEO. Yes. And how did that actually? Was that an additional upgrade? Like, was that a plugin? Because typically with those, what's called WordPress themes is what's called plugins. Right. It's kind of like an accessory. I call it, this would be my metaphor. A plug-in is kind of like an accessory to your car. Yeah. It's like, oh, I've got my car, my website. Oh, did you want air conditioning? Yeah. Well, of course I do. It's like, okay, well, that's going to be an add-on. Hey, did you want an AM/FM radio? Yeah. Well, of course I do. It's like, okay, so these are like plugins. It's like, okay, so you have your car, your website. Now you have these plugins. It's like, okay, do you want a flash? Meaning, do you want moving pictures? Yes. It's like, okay, yes, well, here's the plugin.
Right.
Do you want this thing called SEO, which stands for Search Engine Optimization?
Right.
What I want to do is I want to reduce this video because this is such an expansive topic.
It is,
and it's a topic that guys get sucked into that wormhole very easily through slick advertising.
Yeah.
And so let me just go into my traditional talk track, which is this. There's two things you need to think about. Like, A, I'm a fan of having a website regardless of whatever business you're in. And it can serve a couple of purposes. One of the purposes is what I call social proof. Meaning, if you have a website, do you look more professional than someone else? Yes. The simple answer is yes. But that's only if your customer knows about your website, for one, or that you actually direct people to that website. That could actually be a yes and no answer. Meaning, do you look more professional? Yeah, but when they meet you and it's like, oh, let's say they saw your shirt. It's like, oh, you do detailing? My car's a mess. I've been thinking of finding a detailer. And you're like, okay, cool. And you talk to them and they like you and you set an appointment. Well, they don't even know you have a website. So so that becomes irrelevant in that moment. They don't use that and say, oh, you have a website, how professional of you. You must be better than the next guy that doesn't have a website. So there's many ways that a website is useful. It's a way that I filter out what I call tire kickers, which are cheap asses. It's a way to build social credibility. It's a way to be found by the masses in the new age of technology, which is when people go to find services, like in the era that I grew up in, we went to this silly thing called a phone book.
Yellow Pages,
Exactly, called the Yellow Pages. Most of the audience probably like, Yellow Pages, what does that even mean? Well, it's a big fat book of nothing but people, businesses, advertising their business, and for some reason they made the book yellow, as in all the pages were printed on yellow paper. It wasn't the only book out there that offered that. So the difference was is you had white pages and you had yellow pages. So white pages was all the addresses and names and phone numbers of residential individuals. Yellow pages was all about businesses. So if you wanted to look up a business like, oh, I've got a drained clog, I need a plumber. So you go through there and it was all alphabetized. It's like, oh, plumbing. Let's go to the plumbing section. Then based on the money that you wanted to drop down, you could buy like an eighth of a page, a quarter of a page, a half a page, a full page. Did you want your plumbing section? Back then I believe it literally was all alphabetized, so the only thing that you could upgrade was the size of your ad. So that's how people used to find you. If you were to draw a parallel, if you had an ad in the yellow pages, you would be considered more professional versus less professional. Today, if you have a website, you'd be considered more professional versus less professional. The problem is what guys don't realize is, and I'm going to use a quote, if I build it, they will come. Okay, that's from a very iconic movie, Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner.
Baseball game,
So what I tell people is, if you build it, they are not going to come. You know why? Because you have two readers. You've got what's called the human reader, which is the person looking for services. They will read your website, they will look at it, see the pictures, read whatever you talk about, come to some conclusions. But then you have what's called the search engine spiders. Those are a different type of reader. So what happens is the search engines, Google, Yahoo, Bing, those are the three top search engines, which now you could actually complicate it more and say YouTube is actually the second largest search engine. It's just that most people don't think of that as a search engine, not in the traditional sense. So Google, Yahoo, and Bing. So what they have to decide is, because they aren't human, so they don't have the ability to hire humans to go through every single website, every single page, and manually or humanly decide, okay, is this web page relevant? And what I mean by relevant is that when you, let's say you had a clogged drain and now you need to find a plumber. So you jump on your computer and you type in what? Plumber. Really? That's what you would type in as plumber? Can you be a little more specific? Which is a good example, and I'm not trying to make you look like some idiot, by the way. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. Because, for example, keywords, when it comes to website building, there's this whole language that you have to learn. Keywords. It's like, well, okay, what's a keyword? What does that even mean, Darren? And why is that even important? So that's why it's important, is because you have a need. You've got a clogged drain. You need a plumber. Why do you need a plumber? Because you want them to come out and unclog your drain. So you hop on the internet because it's like, well, that's what we do today, is we go on the internet, we find a plumber. How do I find a plumber? It's like, oh, well, I need a plumber. So plumber. Okay, I can guarantee if I did a search for a plumber and just use the keyword, because that's what it is a keyword. You have decided in your brain what word or what sequence of words that you're going to use to find what you need. You need a plumber. What word are you going to tell the search engines or type in so that they deliver up information that you find useful, which actually is information that they have determined is useful based on that keyword. So the keyword is plumber. That is a massive, grossly overgeneralized word, plumber. Okay, what kind of plumber? Do you want a plumber that's in New York? Or would you prefer one that's in California?
Right, well, usually in Google, it depends on the, usually it'll say like plumber near me, or you can specify like the city.
Right, well, what happens is what I think you're describing is it will start to auto-populate. Yes. Because you know why they do that? Because they realize that people are very ineffective themselves at asking the search engines, hey, search engine, I accept that you're not human. I can have a direct conversation with you, but I'm in dire need of a plumber, but I'm not really quite sure how to ask the question. So the best I can do is just come up with plumber. So what they started doing is based on what people type in, well, they will auto-populate suggestions for you. So for example, because they have what's called, I think geotagging would be the correct term, is because everything you do online is tracked. Whether you guys believe it or not, Big Brother's out there, and there's all these companies that are tracking every single thing you do. So they are going to automatically know where you live. That's going to be factored into part of the equation. So when you start typing plumber, it might say plumber near you, plumber in your area, but because it already knows what your area is, you don't actually have to type that in because it knows where you live. So that's the keyword, is plumber. So you type in plumber.
It's one of the many keywords you can use. But that's the one I'm trying to think of it as a customer. Because most of the people that are my customers are not, you know how they are. So,
yes.
Okay.
So the point I was getting at is that people need to think of two things, is you have the human reader and you have the spider. You have the search engines. So you can spend weeks, months, years building the most fabulous, well-written, well-constructed website, but unless the search engines consider you relevant, guess what? You're invisible. No one will ever find you because the search engines haven't considered you relevant. So that's where search engine optimization comes in, is that you have to teach the search engines why you're relevant. You have to kind of convince them. And that's where keywords come in. That's where tagging. So there's different terms that people will use. For example, tagging. Like when you upload a video, oh, how did you tag it? Well, what you're doing is you're teaching these search engines like, okay, my service that I provide is auto detailing. I'm going to write, and the search engines eventually, and this is where Wix comes in. And this is where their SEO package comes in. Because what you actually have to do is what's called ping the websites, or I'm sorry, ping the search engines. So when I first built my websites, I had to tell the search engines, hey, hello, I'm here, come check me out. I want you to send your spiders into my website and look at my pages and come to a conclusion as to how relevant I am. So because the spiders aren't human, this is what is called an algorithm. So they have these very, very smart people that come up with these programs to basically replicate what a human would do. So what they go through is they scan and they say, okay, what's the headline of this page? What is the page itself called, as in the URL? So for example, you had to pick, I don't know what they call it on Wix. Like when you built a home page, it probably said, okay, let's build your home page. So your home page probably says Blue Tech Mobile Detailing. all single word, or is it spaces in between?
Well, when it's free, you don't get that option. So when it's free, you don't get to put your name on there. You just get a generic URL created by Wix.
Okay.
But when you pay for it...
But you probably still assign it. So it probably will... What Wix does is they do what's called subdomains. So it will go to Wix, but then Wix will send it to your...
Yeah, it's on a Wix server.
Yes.
So it's a private Wix secure server that you can access by going to the Wix server, but it's not on the web, it's just on their server.
Yeah.
So that's why you can still see it. Yeah, but you when it's free, it's like this generic Wix name, you know, which obviously looks terrible because if people saw it, they'd be like, that doesn't not apply to your company. That's
but don't you still get to attach your name? Meaning, my guess is that it would probably still say Wix.com dot maybe Bluetech nothing.
No,
really,
because it's free. So that's the whole point. So basically,
they really dumb it down to a point where it is so irrelevant.
They have different plans for from really cheapy ones to the most expensive ones. And basically, the most expensive ones, what they give you like discounts on ads, like Google Ads. Yeah. Which is something that I figure you're probably gonna bring up eventually.
Yeah, it's a whole nother conversation.
It's a whole other conversation. But anyways, I pay for like the one in the middle because some of the more advanced ones would be good for like maybe a different type of industry. Yeah. For what I need it for, I need some more in the middle. Now, obviously, if you pay like, for example, all up front, for example, $100, then you save money. Or you can pay monthly, and it'll be more. Yeah. So I paid up front. Yeah. I think I paid like $150.
So, do you know if you have your own dedicated Bluetech mobile detailing? You own that URL. Yes. But it's hosted by Wix. Yeah. Okay. Which is a whole nother. It's like hosted. What does that even mean? Right. Like, for example, SBI hosts my domain name. Right. But I own the domain name. That's what that URL, which I don't even remember what URL stands for. But up in the address bar at the very top, if you look at the description, like the www dot, or I think now it is HTTPS, and then S stands for secure. I was gonna say dot. Or / times 2 /
and then
www. Okay, that's the URL. That's the actual address of your website. Right. So I own like probably about 40 different URL addresses. Okay. Most of them just get redirected to my two main websites. Okay. So do you own Bluetech mobile detailing.com?
I paid for it.
Okay. Yeah. So you own that, but it's got to be hosted somewhere.
Right, on Wix.
On Wix. Yeah. So they host it for you as part of their plan.
Yes.
So to try to wrap this up, because this is such a broad subject, and really if guys go to my page, yes, you can sign up for the same service that I do. It's called Site Build It. I don't recommend it for everyone though, because that's for a guy that really is what I call the long-term thinking. And that's what I was on. I was on the long-term thinking, the long game. Right. So I literally did not want to be held hostage by someone that knew all the information, because I knew how ignorant I was. And I knew that I would not even be able to ask the right questions, and I would get kind of pulled by the nose based on their agenda. Right. It's like, oh, you need some SEO? Well, we can do that for you. Yeah. You need to run an AdWords campaign? Right. We can do that for you. And so I thought, you know what? I want to learn this myself so that I can be self-sufficient. Right. So that's why this program, Site Build It specifically, is my #1 choice. Period. But if that's not your world and you don't want to learn all that, which I don't blame you, then another service might be more appropriate. Right. It's just that most guys don't even know the right questions to ask. So on that page, I kind of go through this process in teaching guys some very basic stuff, but I don't want them to think that when I say basic, that it's trivial. What I mean by basic is that it's very important, but it's still basic stuff that you won't even know to ask. Like, oh, what is SEO? What is hosting? Why don't I just go with one of these free services? Yeah. Because what they don't realize is that they can spend all this time and effort building a website, have it look so cool, but you are completely invisible. Right. Because a lot of guys will build a website not just to look professional, but they look at a website as being like an independent sales rep. It's like, I've got a website now. Right. Now the world's gonna find me, and my phone's gonna start ringing, and I'm not gonna have to go knock on any doors. I'm not gonna have to talk to people unless they're already interested in some detailing services. And I get that strategy. The problem is if you don't know how to become relevant with the search engines, you will literally be invisible on the internet. For example, I could do a search. So here I am on Google, and I'm going to type in auto detailing, and then it already starts auto-populating for me. The first one is auto detailing supplies, auto detailing near me. So let's just do near me. Now it's asking me, will I allow Google to know my location? Well, if I want it near me, then yes, I kind of need to allow them. So auto detailing services, and what a lot of people don't realize is that, for example, in this case, we have 1, 2, 3. So the first 3 choices are paid. So a lot of people don't even know that.
Right. Mine are paid.
That's one of the tricks that the industry or some of these services, like you could call up some service or a company that will build you a website. Right. They'll tell you all the stuff that they can do for you. Yeah. And they'll say, hey, we can get you on the first page of Google in a day. Well, I could get you on the first page of Google in a day. Yeah. It's called pay me money. Right. And now I'm going to go to Google and say, hey, I want to be on the first page. Yeah. And they're like, okay, well, what's your search term? Search term, what does that mean? It's like, well, what term do you want to be the first page on? Oh, okay, well, what's the most relevant? I don't know. What's the most relevant search term for it's like, well, and so maybe you say, okay, how about auto detailing Orange County? Right. Because here in the Southland or SoCal, Orange County is kind of considered like its own city. Yeah. Even though it's made up of probably 15 cities, it's all so densely populated, you don't even know when you go from one city to the next. So Orange County is just kind of considered one big city. So auto detailing Orange County is a pretty popular search term. But you're going to pay more for that because of its popularity. Right. So it's all based on supply and demand. So I could get you on the first page of Google if you're willing to pay probably, I don't know, anywhere from probably $11 to $15 per click. Yeah. It's like, oh, wow, okay, that could get pretty expensive. Yeah. So what I wanted to do, for example, is to see how many possibilities would come up when I said auto detailing. Let's say, okay, wow, there's that many choices. Because what I'm getting at is that unless the standard rule is this: if you don't show up on the first 3 pages of a search, you're basically invisible on the internet. So if you, what does yours say?
I put auto detailing, and it does show up like I am on the first page. Actually, wait, no, wait, I'm not under auto detailing. I'm under mobile detailing.
Okay. So but what I wanted to know is how many options. See, on my PC, it will show me how many possible.
How many are. Okay.
And it'll say some obscene amount of options. You're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to compete with that? Right. Well, that's where search engine optimization comes in, is that you've got to prove to the search engines how relevant you are. But that's the confusing thing about web pages or websites, is that most guys don't understand that. Yeah. There's so many things that they don't understand, kind of like detailing when you want to get into the business. You, because due to your inexperience, you will not know the questions to even ask. Let's say if you're trying to get training, okay? But let's pretend you're a customer and you want detailing services. All they know is they want a clean car, and they probably want it shiny. Yeah. And that's about all they know. So in many ways, they don't really know how to ask the detailer, like, well, how do I pick this detailer versus the other detailers? Right. So that's one thing I talk about with communication skills is realizing, hey, Johnny customer, you probably don't even know the right questions to ask me. I may or may not be the right detailer for you. So that's where, once again, the website can be helpful, is that it can answer a lot of questions for your customers if they go on the internet and find you, and they actually find your website. You can filter out a lot of people. You can build authority. You can start to build rapport and trust with them. Right. So website is very useful. That's the thing that you chose to do first. Yeah. It may or may not be the thing that I would recommend for you to do first. Right. Really, to be honest and candid with you. I love that when people say, well, to be honest with you. It's like, so that would suggest that there's all those other times that maybe you're less than honest with me or not totally honest. So I try to remember to be very candid with you. It's not the very first thing I would recommend a guy do, but you did it. Yeah. So that's why I thought, okay, we can shoot a video on it. I created a page probably over a year ago addressing this very specific problem for guys, because it's one of those areas that you can be misled very easily through companies like Wix or Squarespace. I think Squarespace is the one I'm thinking. Or Squarespace
even Google has on my Google Business.
Yeah.
There's a section that help you build also a web page.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the problem is it really is a complex subject.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you this, just to kind of whet guys' appetites so that they go and at least check out this page. Mm-hmm. And yes, if you decide to sign up through SBI, through my link, yes, I get a little commission, just FYI. Mm-hmm. But by no means is it the right answer for everyone. But that's what it's really what I do with my customers, is because you as a guy that wants to start your own business, you now accept you need a website. But because you're so inexperienced, you don't really know the right questions to ask. So it's just like my customers, I know that they're ignorant enough, they don't know to ask the right questions. Right. So I'm gonna help them ask the right questions. So that's what this page is designed to do, is to help you as a detailer, like, wait, what are the questions I should be asking myself before I sign on to a website service? Yeah. So that's what I take them through, is I walk you through it, help you answer the questions, or help you come to the answers to questions you don't know to ask, so that hopefully the goal is at the end of the page you have a new awakening. It's just like, oh, I never thought about half that stuff. Right. I'm sure glad I'm thinking about it now. Now I can go away and think about it, or now I can say like, yes, sign me up, or no, I don't think that's what I want. I think I want one of these other suggestions like Wix or Squarespace or Purple. I don't know. There's so many out there. Yeah. So in conclusion, in 350,000 words or less. I don't know for sure. That was a lot of words. It was. This is a long video. But
a helpful video.
Hopefully, I mean, hopefully it will help. And hopefully it's helping you. You've actually lived this further along than a lot of guys that will be watching this, because you have to remember, everyone watching this is going to be on that path at different points of that path. Sure. There's guys that have been sitting and thinking about this years in advance. I know before I pulled the trigger, it was years in advance that I thought about it. And so there's going to be plenty of guys that are watching this are like, wow, I think about that, I dream about it, I fantasize about it, but it's just so overwhelming, or I'm not in a position to do it. And so they're doing what I call their due diligence and educating themselves along the way. One of the topics is websites. It's a big can of worms. So go to the show more box below the video. It'll say show more. You click on that, it will suddenly expand, and there'll be some links there. You can go to my website and at least learn and educate yourself so that you can make a more informed decision. It's as simple as that. It's the same with my customers. I want them to be as informed as possible so that they can make an informed decision. Because I believe in the long term, an informed customer is better than a misformed or an uninformed customer. Really what it's called being ignorant. But when people hear the word ignorant, they think, oh wow, why are you disparaging people? Why are you talking down to people? Why are you calling them ignorant? It's just like, well, because they just have a lack of knowledge. That's all it is. So let's stop there. We will see you guys on the next video.